What's going on, everybody? So I'm at the bus stop. I'm moving around town. Uh, got my $3 bus pass, and I just got off the bus, and I had a conversation with a man who gave me a very interesting perspective on addiction. One like I've never heard before. And this man is old and frail and has had multiple spinal surgeries. And trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning, okay? If you're going through addiction, don't watch this video. Don't watch this video. Okay, so don't say I didn't warn you. Alright, if you're going through addiction, don't watch this video. But this guy gave me a really interesting perspective on addiction. He was telling me that he's a fentanyl user and went on to tell a little bit about his story. And of course, doing what I do, I asked him, even though he was old and obviously in a lot of pain and different things, I said, have you ever considered getting clean? And he said, yeah, I was clean for 20 years. Wow. Well, what got you, why do you use now, you know? And he said, well, I was clean for 20 years, and then I had to have spinal surgery, multiple fusions. I mean, this guy showed me pictures of his x-rays. I mean, he's got more metal in his back than the Terminator. I don't know how in the hell he's still walking. With a cane is the answer. But it blew my mind, the number of surgeries and the amount of cuts and operations that this man has had, and the fact that he's even moving. And on the bus, walking around, you know. He said, I was clean for 20 years, and then I started using again after I had my surgeries. Now, for those of you who don't know, when you have surgery, they give you fentanyl to keep you asleep during the surgery. Okay? And so I asked him, I said, you know, there's alternative methods. There's Suboxone, there's methadone, there's Sublocade, there's all these other options, right? And he said, yeah. He said, I've tried those too. But the thing is whenever I'm on MAT or Suboxone or any of those other therapies, they prescribe me morphine and Oxycontin and Percocet. I'm like, wow, what? He said, yeah, like Norco's like a Tylenol, you know, like he needs strong medications regardless. And apparently, fentanyl is cheaper. See, if he was to get on Oxycontin or any of the other prescribed medications, then he'd have to go to the Walgreens, which, again, the dude's got more metal in his back than the Terminator. Okay? He can't walk, barely. So he'd have to go out to go to Walgreens. He'd have to, after the copay, the drugs would cost hundreds of dollars. And he said he can get a fentanyl pill for $4. So it's cheaper. And apparently his guy will come to him, you know, so he doesn't have to get out. Then our conversation continued, and it got really interesting because this man's almost a doctor himself. I mean, obviously he's not a doctor, okay, but I asked him, I was like, you know, what do you do to I guess, you know, like you've been using this long, like how have you managed to stay alive, right? And that's when the conversation got the most interesting. He said, I absolutely never use twice a day, more than twice a day. He said, I use every 12 hours, period. Every 12 hours. He said, it's like an alarm on my phone. I know that at this time in AM and this time in the PM is when I do what I have to do. And he said, every 6 months, he takes himself to detox for 30 days. And every 6 months, he does a 30-day detox. Because if he doesn't, what happens is his tolerance increases, and then he has to use more than this small amount. His dose is a small amount. He uses a small amount. And like, I know about dosing and everything. I'm not going to go into too many details, but he said I use a small amount every 12 hours, and every 6 months I go to 30-day detox, so that way I don't have to increase that amount. He said a lot of people don't practice this method, and so after 6 months to a year to 2 years of addiction, the increased amount that they need to use because their tolerance continues to rise is what is killing people. And it blew my mind. I told this guy, I'm like, I feel like God puts me in the path of certain people for a reason, And I recommended to him, like, hey, if you can get clean, like, talk to me. I gave him my phone number. I was like, keep in touch with me. I want to know that you're safe. I want to know that you're alive. I want you to know that I care, And I said, if nothing else, I said, promise me that anytime you get around somebody who uses these substances, promise me you'll give them this information because it's going to save lives. He said, I tell as many people as I can. I said, well, keep doing that, because I was like, regardless of what the world may think of you, you're a lifesaver. I don't need, I'm good. But this man is out here saving lives with this information. And it was just really interesting to me to see a 70-year-old man try to justify using fentanyl in a way that I couldn't come up with an on-the-spot rebuttal about. I couldn't argue. And that's kind of why I'm making this video, because hopefully one day I will come up with an argument for this sort of point, but I don't know, I just wish fentanyl never existed. To think that doctors everywhere are giving this to their patients to keep them asleep during surgery. Like, surgery is a life-saving thing, yeah? So how do we fight it? I don't know the answer to that question. But I wake up every day and I look for it. And I try to make videos to entertain you guys and everything, but at the end of the day, it's a big fight. And I just think the more educated the world is on the topic, the more we can open these kinds of conversations, the more we can start coming up with solutions. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go for now. Love yourself. Love others. And love the world around you. Peace.